Oh, good evening, everyone, and welcome to what's going to be a very, very somber weekend wrap. This week brought to you by CrowCast. With me, as always, is Nikki New. How you going, Nikki?
I'm going well because I was watching documentaries instead of the football.
And Macca, how you doing, mate?
Oh, great, mate.
Yeah, it's a very disappointing weekend of footy for the Adelaide Crows, and we will get right into it after we do a little bit of a score review. A roundup of the weekend's results. So, pretty predictable round of results, I would have thought. This week, on Friday night, we had Collingwood getting over the Western Bulldogs at Western Bulldogs' home ground, fairly comfortable in the end by 35 points, 90 to 55.
When I watched that game, I thought to myself, the way that Collingwood beat Western Bulldogs, perhaps we weren't that good last week after all. Because I thought Collingwood beat them pretty comfortably. Western Bulldogs were very ordinary.
Yeah, I felt like they hung around for a while. They hung on, and Western Bulldogs were gallant. I didn't think they played a particularly efficient game style. They seem to mess around a lot with it, and I don't think they've got a lot of options up forward at the moment.
Well, hilariously, they changed up their game style. So on a dry day with the roof closed inside, they then decided to kick it more than handball.
Yeah.
So, boys, that was the game plan from last week.
I'll tell you the other thing I don't understand out of that game. Why the hell was the roof closed?
AFL?
Yeah, but when we've played there on a nighttime game, half the time the roof's open.
AFL, rules for Victorian teams, rules for everybody else.
Nicky's right.
Yeah, don't like it. On Saturday, Richmond and St Kilda. St Kilda, again, gallant between half forward and half back, but they just can't kick goals, St Kilda. It's woeful. Richmond getting up in the end reasonably comfortably, 105-77, but St Kilda were yapping around for a while, but they just couldn't put anything on the board. Yeah,
they lack nothing in effort, but they're just lacking class. But
yeah.
Their effort was great.
It's just that cohesion going forward. I did quite like them having McCartan on Rance. He didn't quite learn or didn't use it to his advantage like we saw JJ do against him. But Rance only got a lot of his possessions once he moved off of him for a small period, and then they had to put him back on again. So it was quite interesting that you saw that happening once again.
Yeah, I don't know. I still don't know about McCartan. I know your thoughts, Macca, on Paddy McCartan. But
he's never going to make it you're never going to make it. He's never going to be a star.
But we can already see, if you compare him, he's a big body forward who's come in like Hawkins, great in the under-18 comps, not really showing so much. Comparing with what Fogarty's showing, Fogarty's not getting, the high possessions, but you can see he's got more tricks.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, and then we had Brisbane and Sydney. That was an entertaining game. Sydney getting up in the end, even though it was low scoring, 67-49. Fagan's got them playing a good brand of footy, and Sydney would be happy to get out of that with a win up at the Gabba, I reckon.
Yeah, I think it's a good summary of it, actually. Brisbane, I don't think there's going to be too many easy games against them up there.
Take Charlie out. As soon as you take Charlie out, then they've got problems.
Oh, I don't know whether they've got problems.
No, Charlie didn't have very much influence on the game at all, Nicky, and I thought that Brisbane, they were pretty gallant in the game.
They were gallant, but they weren't I don't think they were ever in a real chance to win it because of Charlie. They've been playing him off the wing, or they drop him to full forward, and he's been causing a lot of problems for teams. So that's when Brisbane have been getting that run. Sydney chopped him out, absolutely chopped him out, and they lost that flow.
I guess what I'm thinking, Nicky, is there are losses and there's losses.
Yeah.
There's losses like we had today, and there's losses like Brisbane had. And I would have rather had one like Brisbane had.
Yeah. Saturday evening, I should say, Essendon getting over the line at Spotless over GWS 95-60. two things for me out of that game. First is GWS in a world of hurt, and Leon Cameron is the cause of that. And secondly, Mark Neild will never get another job in the AFL system anywhere. Because
he shouldn't.
But look, as soon as he gets ditched out of the Demons, they bloody turn it around. As soon as he gets ditched out of Essendon, they turn it around. What the hell? What the hell?
I don't know what he must do, but whatever he does must be absolute shit.
Anyway, Essendon, they've gone from... I mean, they started against us playing that fast footy, and then they kind of went into a chip and mark kind of game that didn't really work for them. Now Worsfold's just turned the blower up again, and they're playing that fast footy, and they won't win every week because it does leave them exposed defensively. But I'll tell you what, they're dangerous every week now when playing that style of football because they're going to score against you.
Well, I watched that game. I really enjoyed the game, actually. It was a very good game to watch. Yep. And but GWS, they're in a world of hurt at the moment, I think. You
know, without harping on too much, sorry, Nick, I noticed GWS a lot of times would do things that if they were another team, they'd get hauled over the coals. No teamwork, no bringing other players into the game, no looking to assist. Every lad trying to do it off his own boot. Josh Kelly was one of them.
So they're a whole team of Dangerfields?
Well, they're a whole team of individuals, Nick, as I think we've rightly pointed out in the past.
Yeah, who was the idiot who, when they actually started to get a run on, they were getting close to, making comeback in the fourth, who then gave away a stupid free kick?
Yeah, a 50-metre penalty, wasn't it?
Wasn't right.
And Leon Cameron let him off the hook. I don't think Leon Cameron is a good. I don't think Leon Cameron's a good coach. I think someone made a good comment on Big Footy. He said Leon Cameron's crashed the Ferrari. I think they're right.
Yeah. I actually watched the Geelong-Carlton game a bit more, and I just occasionally would flick back. So Carlton actually gave it a good showing on that one.
They did. 73-45 in the end, Geelong got up. I still don't think Geelong are quite on the pace from a personnel point of view, and Carlton did stick with them, even though it was a fairly low score.
Yeah, well, there's way that Geelong are going to win the flag this year, and Carlton hung in there, but Geelong really don't have a proper ruck set up. I can't say his name.
Bragalil.
Him.
Sava.
He broke. He broke his leg, and it's a pity.
Oh, that was horrible.
It was horrible because I've been watching the lad in the games that I played, and he's learning it, and he got a lovely leap on him, and he was going to be their ruckman. There's no doubt about that. And what they've got is a couple of cast-offs from other teams that aren't very good. So that they got a major problem there, Geelong, and they've got a Hawkins up at full forward, as you know, Nicky. Well, you're not going to win too many with him if he's your man.
And that broken leg was partly caused by Dangerfield once again. I mean, if I was a Geelong supporter watching that game, I would have been so frustrated because he took out a number of his own teammates who were in better positions to mark, but he has to go and do it himself.
Well, he landed on his leg and broke it.
He did.
Yeah, and that's a double break too. It's not going to be an easy one to get over. Yeah,
it's going to be a long one, unfortunately. That could almost be... Yeah. I think people were actually talking that could be almost a 2-year.
It's a Trent Henschel type situation.
Yeah. I feel sorry.
Which is just horrible.
I feel sorry for that because he was coming along nicely.
Yeah,
he was indeed.
Today we had West Coast and Hawthorn fighting out an entertaining game. West Coast getting over the line at Etihad, which is good for their stocks, 75-60.
One of the good games to watch for the weekend. I had to abandon it as soon as our game started, but
same.
But I was enjoying it. It was a good game.
But once again, early clock Womble nomination for the AFL. Hawthorn is not an Etihad tenant, so why were they playing West Coast there when they should have been playing it at the MCG?
Yeah, and this is where the whole deal is for the non-Victorian clubs. A prime opportunity to give West Coast a game at the G, as you rightly point out, Hawthorn's home ground. Not only is it a missed opportunity to do that for West Coast, but if I was Hawthorn, I'd be saying, hang on a minute, why aren't we playing home? It was basically
why aren't we playing where we play, which is what our game plan is for, instead of you putting us on somewhere that's not our home ground.
I mean, the grand final last year, notwithstanding we didn't play well, but I think it really it brought this issue into the spotlight, and I think the AFL have to deal with it. I think the fixturing software that they use, and it's not easy to run a fixture which has an imbalance, but I think they have to factor in this venue situation in Victoria for next season. Sorry, go on.
Sorry, I just wanted to laugh at that.
Okay. North Melbourne also proving their credentials to a degree, winning over in Perth, beating Fremantle 86-58. I didn't see the game, but North Melbourne aren't doing a lot wrong at the moment.
Well, I abandoned ours as soon as it finished, went over to that game, and it was a good game in the sense of two teams desperate to win, but North Melbourne were just too good in the end.
How'd Nat Fyfe go?
Well, no, he gets plenty of it, doesn't do much with it.
31 touches, 8 clearances.
Yeah, he handballs quite a lot.
Yeah. I still don't think he's 100%.
Well, no, he played quite well, but when he handballs the ball, he's usually a lot better than when he kicks it. He doesn't find a man that often when he kicks it.
Yeah, so anyway, that leaves us with a rather interesting ladder. With a few teams going in opposite directions. West Coast cementing their top spot, 9 wins, 1 loss, a healthy percentage. Then we've got Richmond clear in second, 8-2, and then we've got Melbourne and Sydney now clear in third on 7-3. Melbourne with a very healthy percentage after today. And then North, Geelong, Adelaide, Collingwood, and you probably throw in Port there as well, considering they had the bye. All even on points from 5th to 9th, and Adelaide going the wrong way at the moment out of those teams.
Lost about 15% or something, didn't we?
Yeah, went from 124 to 109, I think. Not good. Hawthorn just out of the 8.
Can do math.
Hawthorn in 10th on 5-5, and then GWS certainly heading the wrong way. Essendon, Freo, and the Bulldogs. Gold Coast hanging in there. St Kilda need a forward line. And Brisbane not getting a lot of reward for effort at the moment, but certainly looking okay. And Carlton still at the bottom, which is good for our draft. And that's about it.
But Melbourne's position is not good for their happy one of theirs.
I know. Anyway, speaking of Melbourne, let's get into the wrap-up of the Crows Demons game.
Do we have to?
Painful.
I still am able to play this music.
Get ugly. Damn, that's ugly.
And it was ugly.
No. It wasn't ugly. It was past ugly, because it was way past ugly.
Yeah, it was bloody terrible.
It was fugly.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. For those living in a shoebox, Melbourne 23 goals, 8, 146, destroying Adelaide 8 goals, 7, 55. Even that score probably flatters Adelaide. Adelaide kicking 3 goals, 3 in the last quarter. A margin of 91 points. Oh my God! Give me your worst, guys.
Well,
the midfield.
We got slaughtered in the midfield, absolutely slaughtered, and the two boys that carried us through so nicely in the other game previously. Cam Ellis-Yeoman, he had a shitter, to be very honest. I thought Greenwood wasn't too bad, but certainly we got outclassed in the midfield. We're slow compared to Melbourne. And I guess it always looks that way when you're chasing arse all the time, but I do think they have a lot more quicker players than we've got. It didn't help Brown getting a concussion in the second quarter, but in terms of the overall result, that meant nothing really, because we were just getting slaughtered all around the ground. But and that's probably it. We did get slaughtered all around the ground, and that's why you get beat by that type of margin.
Nick?
Yeah, that. Really. It was so bad. I mean, it was started off with the fucking commentary. BT, oh my God.
Hate him.
Oh, seriously. It was like, what is his comment at the very opening? Oh, Fogarty's been brought in to push over Lever. Fogarty's been playing for how many weeks, you dipshit?
Yeah, not only that, we don't have many left.
No, I mean, hello. It was that midfield in those first 5 goals, and I'm yelling at the television straight away, just like, you lot at poor defence, you fucking bastards in the midfield who were just letting them run free. I want to do a head count in the Melbourne forward line because they always had at least one player free, and that is not the way we play.
No. Look, I think, and we'll go into obviously stats in a minute, but my view is that our 2 months of bad injuries has caught up to us. I think Hugh and Camillus Yeoman in particular look tired. Don't forget, even though we had a long break, it was still a heavy ground that we played on last week, and those lads have been going for quite some time without any help. Being a couple of rotations down, obviously, with Luke Brown going down and losing Seedsman before the game, didn't help that situation either. We obviously got slaughtered, particularly at centre clearances. Max Gawn absolutely towed Sauce Jacobs up, and I've been saying this all season, and Sauce's time is up. I don't think you can argue with me much longer.
No, I will contrast a little bit, because those first 5 minutes, Jacobs was actually winning all the taps. He was putting in some really proactive positions, but our midfielders were just like, huh? And Melbourne was actually going. He was beating Gawn, and he was beating him around the ground. He was one of the few in those first 5 minutes. Then yes, he didn't do so well.
You watching a replay from something, Nicky? Not in the game I saw.
No, the first 5 minutes. Yeah, I'm actually watching it going, Jacobs is actually doing well here.
No.
But our midfield, you can see it. Just in that.
They're probably not used to Sauce winning the tap, Nick, to be honest with you. I mean, let's be honest.
As PJ says, the disposal for Melbourne was 31-9 after 5 minutes. Yeah. And, that's a fair reflection of the game.
And they just didn't want to work.
The other thing that stood out to me is that we are susceptible on big wide grounds. It's becoming apparent.
Yep.
Well, remember I said to you that I picked Sydney, picked Adelaide to beat Sydney because we were playing on a small ground. When we're in that small ground, we can scrap with the best of them. But it comes back to the fact that we have too many players of average leg speed.
Yeah.
And if you look at Melbourne, they've probably got at least 6 players, maybe more, that have got a lot of pace.
Yeah.
You go through our side and you nominate the ones that have got extra pace. There aren't too many.
Well, and not only that, our traditional ground coverers, and Tommy Lynch in particular. Now, Tom Lynch was wearing a T-shirt and shorts in the warm-up, and I reckon he was almost a lay out because he didn't look right to me. From the first 5 minutes, he looked proppy to me. He couldn't stretch out, and he got blanketed by Bernie, but I think some of that was Bernie's defensive capability, but I think a lot of it was Tom's inability to cover the ground. So we lacked a conduit.
He was poor, really poor.
Yeah, but I really don't think he was right, Macca. I have a feeling that he's been brought back, and I think there's a few of them that aren't right. I think we are. I mean, Luke Brown, he spends 10 minutes on the ground or whatever, and he goes off with the injury that kept him out last week. I mean, what the hell is going on with this injury management situation at Adelaide?
They said it was concussion.
No, it was an adductor.
Well, Channel 7 said it was concussion.
No, I think you'll find
when in the first quarter, when he was actually he was talking to one of the trainers, he was like at his chest and his head. That's where he was pointing to. So
I heard something different, but anyway, the thing, I don't think Matt Crouch is right. He didn't look like he was moving freely. He played a lot of the game sort of behind the ball in our defensive area.
At least he
No. He played behind the ball, standing alone, so he didn't have to go on somebody.
Well, My point being, Nikki, that I think we've got blokes that are playing sore and playing injured at the moment, and they're two that I highlighted. Rory Atkins is clearly missing a heart muscle. I don't know whether Wayne Miller was right. I'm very sceptical about our injury management situation at the moment.
Oh, we've got every right to be. The runs in that respect are on the board in terms of failure. Pikey was saying in his interview last week that, that's the end of our injury run, and we've turned the corner because we've made adjustments, etc., etc. But we rolled out a couple more today, so it's a bit. When he made that comment, I thought it's a bit premature. Let's wait and see.
Madeline points out in the chat that it was Seedsman with an adductor, which is correct. My mistake.
Yep.
Look, and as PJ rightly points out, Crouchy, who has a 1 week hamstring? Macca?
I couldn't believe that. Well, you don't have a 1 week hamstring.
You don't. You and I both know that.
He either had one last week or he didn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
he had awareness.
Yeah, well, I think we're all becoming aware that it doesn't matter what spin the club puts on it. Something's not right. I heard again, Stephen Rowe said that there was whispers during the week that something wasn't right down at the club this week. So who knows what that's all about. But so as much as Rowe is a dill, he does have a few contacts, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Anyway, let's look at some head-to-head stats and see. It's fairly obvious where we lost, but let's have a look.
Did we win any of them?
Well, we're minus 123 in disposals, if you don't mind.
Down 43 in contested.
Yeah,
is that like winning the most number of negative disposals ever?
468 to 345 disposals. Melbourne going at a 1-to-1 kick to handball ratio. Just about they ran the ball really well and brought others into the game really well. Used the width of the ground well, I thought. And as you pointed out, Macca were quite quick. We went at 1.5 to 1. Kicks to handballs, but not that it did any good. Another key stat where we are severely lacking: 125 marks to 90, and of those 16 contested to 7. We just couldn't snag a mark. We only took 6 marks inside 50 for the whole match to Melbourne's 19. We got absolutely belted in the air. Tackles.
Well, when did we actually have forwards in the forward line? Most of the time they were standing on the half-back line.
Yeah, they can still mark the ball though. Tackles were even. Hit-outs, Source got slaughtered 54 to 26, of which most of that was. Gawn had 49 to Source's 21. Really disappointing effort from Source, I felt, and why did they name O'Brien Emergency? What was the point?
Because they always name a ruck.
Well, they don't. They haven't named O'Brien for a little while now.
Yeah, they have every week.
No, they haven't for the last couple.
No.
They haven't for the last couple, Nick.
First time in about 3 weeks, Nicky.
Yeah, and it gave me the impression that Source might have been in some doubt.
That's what I thought.
But I reckon the doubt over Source is actually his ability to match it with good ruckman. He's been towed by Grundy, and now he's been towed by Maxi Gawn.
Those two are the best ruckmen in the competition.
Yeah, but let's not forget, Macca, Source was in the All-Australian conversation only a couple of years ago.
But he can't get off the ground now.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying. So we can't, we have to recognise the level to which Source's output and his effectiveness has fallen, because he was in the same conversation as Max Gawn 2 years ago, and whereas Max has gone from strength to strength, Source has fallen off a cliff, and I think he would admit. I think Source would admit that himself. He's a proud person, Source Jacobs, and I don't think he'd be happy with his performance.
I see that in the chat that's been suggested that by Simon Moyle that Brian gets a game, and I think it would be a good time to give him a game, because I don't think Source is having any favourable influence for us at the moment at all.
No, he's stopped being a link player. At his best, he can provide that extra midfielder, that link player through the corridor. He's stopped providing that. He's not taking marks around the ground. We continually, although we broke even on stoppage clearances, I feel like one of Sauce's great weaknesses at the moment is throwing clearances. He seems to continually lose front position in throwing clearances, and he lost a ton of those today. And the centre clearances were 20 to 10 against. So, I mean, yep. I've been saying it about Sauce for a while, and I know people have had varying opinions, but I think today was a classic example of why he, at the very least, needs a bit of the same treatment as Tex. He needs a couple of weeks off.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think you're right. And I've been one of his half defenders, not totally defending, but you have to be honest. He was very poor today.
Yeah. In the chat, they're drawing comparisons between Sauce and Darren Jolly, and I think that's a really, really good comparison. Jolly did fall off the cliff very quickly, and I think we may... I hope not. I hope Sauce is just playing a bit hurt and can bounce back, but, geez, it doesn't look good from where I'm sitting. Not blaming the umpires by any stretch, but geez, it was a confusing game, umpiring-wise. Holding the ball seemed to be thrown out, and we didn't seem to jag many soft ones. It was 22 to 13 in their favour.
Differences being paid from one end to the other, which is they need to be consistent. If you're paying it one way, you've got to pay it for everybody. Lairdy should have had about 3 shots on goal, I think, in that last quarter.
Yeah.
Probably still would have missed him, but...
Yeah, but Ed had 2 blatant pushes in the back. And
in the space of one possession.
And it wasn't like they had 1,000 players around them. It was fairly much in the open, and 2 great big hands in the back, and he sent him flying, and it was just play on both times. And I made sure I looked where the position of the umpire was. He was about 10 metres away out in the open. And I just couldn't. I just thought that particular umpire gave us a very, very raw go. And not that it really mattered, because we were getting our asses caned anyhow. But we don't need any other things to get over. But anyway, we did get the rub of the green.
I feel like, that's probably accurate, Mac. I didn't feel like we got the rub of the green. There was some really weird ones. Like there was even one, a not 15 paid to Betts. I think in the second quarter it was bloody clearly 15.
Yes, I know the one you're talking about. And the other one that I was reading, the holding the ball, where the guy bounced the ball and was grabbed. And if you're in the process of bouncing a ball, whether you take possession back or not, and you're grabbed, you are holding the ball, because that's counted as part of being possession. And he just called play on.
Yeah. But it wasn't the reason we lost by any means.
Not at all.
But I think the disparity and the umpiring performance was worth a comment, just simply because I didn't think it was very good. My only comment about really just adds to the frustration we were already experiencing with the incompetence of our players. Yeah. Look, clearances, as I mentioned, 39 to 28 of those. We had centre clearances 20 to 10, so we got mopped up in the middle, and considering how many goals were kicked, that had made a real impact. Around the ground, stoppage clearances were even, although I felt that, again, their clearance work seemed to be more effective. They seemed to get more value from their clearances that we did. Rebound 50s, as you'd expect, were in our favour, 38 to 28. Inside 50s, so a whopping 24 differential, 62 inside 50s to 38. When's the last time you saw that in a game at probably North Melbourne at Tassie, I reckon? But contested possessions, I mean, our game is built around contested possession. That's what you get when you talk to anyone from the Adelaide Crows. Our game is built around ground ball gets, contested possession. We were minus 46 in contested possessions, 163 to 117. That's
terrible. That's terrible.
Less than 30 contested possessions a quarter. That's wrong. And not only that, uncontested possessions, we were minus, 83, 308 to 225. We just didn't get our hands on the ball. 368 effective disposals to 256 tells the story. Disposal efficiency was up as it should have been under those conditions. Marks I've already covered. The other one, where was it? The score involvement's 158 to 63. Now, I understand that's largely because Melbourne scored more, but I think it also just shows that we didn't have any system when we got the ball.
Well, we didn't have the ball as much as they did, of course. But the one thing I did like about the way they played was when they cleared from the back lines, they'd maybe go one short one or one long one to somebody, but then they'd switch straight across the ground. They always had somebody anticipating that. And they caught us out of that so many times. And so we've all gathered on one side there to defend it, and all of a sudden on the large oval, bang, it's gone across the other side, and they're out in the open, and they're going ground as easy as pie. And in fact, it looked at times. I said to Mrs. Macker, when you got a club having its internal trial and they put the possible versus the hopefuls, and we looked like the hopefuls.
Yeah, we didn't look very hopeful. Was it 5-1 down or 4-1 to nothing in the first 2 seconds? Anyway,
no, we looked incompetent against them.
We were second to every contest. The way they were playing it was putting so much pressure on our defence because we kept getting caught out of position. It didn't feel like at any stage we had any control over that game. And we didn't have any firepower up forward. They had 3 or 4 going up against Josh when he was going for the ball. Darcy was forced to play fairly high. We had Betts playing deep. We didn't have a focal point. And as a consequence, because they had so much more of the play in their defensive half, they were just running and spreading. And I don't feel like our midfielders worked hard enough. But I felt like they just had too many options on the wide ground. They moved the ball beautifully, Melbourne. Credit to them.
And what they did as well is they pulled defenders up very high so that they could do all the Joe the Gooses. They were playing our game plan.
Yeah.
If they're playing our game plan, we should know how to stop it. It's not the one we use anymore. Well, why can't we stop what we know?
We were playing them in front the whole day, and I thought exactly the same, Nicky. Once you push up to that half-back line, you need to actually cover the space behind you. You'd almost rather a bloke getting... Yeah, I know. You'd almost rather Hogan taking a mark at, high up near the wing, rather than him being able to double back and get one over the top. But
we've done that before where Tarly has kind of recognised and gone, I'm going to go stay back. But because we were getting absolutely smashed, almost every single defender was, I just have to beat my man. I still think Talia had a decent game from the bits that I did see.
Was probably our best.
Probably our best, because he was actually bloody trying.
Good effort, no, very good effort. It was, really, really like King Canute trying to hold back the tide. It just kept coming and coming and coming, but at least he bloody well tried.
Anyway, let's get into some individual stats. Not that they're anything worth writing home about.
Oh, and you two are wrong.
I know. I saw you put it up there, Nicky.
I checked. I went back to round 6 and moved it forward. O'Brien's been named emergency every single time. I could go further back. He's been named emergency for every single game.
There you go.
I have to be sexist in, so only a woman would have bothered with that.
Yeah.
No,
while we're talking.
Guys.
While we're talking about the matter at hand, Macca,
the real things.
I'm not taking that any further. Your hair looks great, Nicky, and those jeans don't make your bum look big.
I hate to tell you, there's no jeans that make my ass look small.
Anyway, let's move on. Matty Crouch, he had 34 touches, but I didn't think he had a huge influence on the game at all, really. 14 and 20, 5 marks, 3 tackles, 8 clearances, 2 rebound 50s, had 14 contested possessions that turned it over a few times, spent 82% time on the ground too, which is a fairly high number for someone coming back from a hamstring, Macca.
No, I don't think he did have a hamstring last week.
What do you reckon he had?
I have no idea, but there's no, like you said, there's no such thing as a 1 week hamstring.
Well, maybe he was playing with it. Do you know what I reckon? I reckon there's a lot of this tendonitis in the club. That's what I reckon.
I think you're probably right.
I reckon there's a lot of overuse stuff going on, and I reckon that's why they tried to get to nurse Tex through. I reckon that's why they tried to nurse Miller through. And I reckon that's what they're doing with Crouchy and a couple of others. I reckon there's a lot of overwork and overuse injuries down there at the moment.
I will be disgusted if they keep this fitness guy for next year.
Yeah.
I'll be disgusted.
Yeah, a few things going to happen because it's starting to mess with our season. We're only one game out of the 8 now. So, anyway, Lairdy, similarly, I think, and probably across the board, really, for people, but Lairdy had 30 touches as well, 13 and 7. He did take 10 marks, which is probably about, about a fifth of the total marks that we took for the game.
Now, Macca, he was actually put up forward in the last quarter, wasn't he?
Yeah, I did see him up forward a bit.
I was trying to work out
or
what
in
he
the
was
midfield
doing.
a bit,
I think midfield, Nicky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they had to do something. At least they made some changes.
Yeah, 5 tackles, 6 rebound 50s, had 8 contested possessions, went 80%, 5 intercepts, 2 stoppage clearances, but really didn't get any value from his efforts, I don't think.
Just interrupting, did you see the Pikes there at three-quarter time? He was trying to communicate his hatred of the way they had played through his eyes, and I think it was coming through. But
he's not a man you cross.
No, he really was glaring with a lot of nastiness in his eyes, and some of the players looked very uncomfortable.
What it does show,
Mm.
Macca, is that in the coach's eyes, this again, as with every other loss we've had so far this season, and probably every loss we've had in the last 5 bloody years, the coach thinks that it came down to mindset and effort.
But I think it is true.
I think it's true. I actually think he's right.
Not disputing that, but I think that's the strongest communication yet that we've had from Don, that this is not structure, this is not personnel. He's not willing to make excuses for personnel, and he viewed that train wreck as coming down to effort. Now, we're talking about a team that contended for a premiership last year, and notwithstanding the challenges that we've faced this season so far, injury-wise, the expectation has always been, and the mantra of the club has always been, next man up. And Don's not letting him off the hook, and I really like that. But I'm alarmed by the fact that this group seems to, at times, just throw in the towel.
It does. No doubt about it.
Anyway, Sam Gibson, 22 touches, 12 and 10, 4 tackles, 7 contested.
He tried hard.
I thought he was handy.
Didn't do much, really. Rory Atkins, another Scooby 22 disposal game, 14 and 8. 4 marks, 2 tackles where blokes fell into his arms, 4 inside 50s, 6 contested possessions where he happened to be where the other people were at the time.
You'd be a little unkind, but
who was that? I missed it.
Rory Atkins, 5 scoring involvements, nearly 500.
I saw him go in twice.
No, it was a good game by Rory.
I don't think you're serious.
I think Rory's very lucky this week because I reckon there's worse players than him.
Far worse. But I think blokes like Rory Atkins actually were symptomatic of what was going on, because it was those blokes that weren't spreading. We weren't getting options from our outside players. You know, we can hang shit on Greenwood and Ellis Yeoman as much as we like about the inside ball, but the fact was, Melbourne had so many free runners, and that's on the outside players. That's not on the inside runner. That's not on the inside bulldozers. That's on the outside players. And Rory Atkins is a bona fide 100% outside player. So was he playing accountable footy, or was he playing seagull footy? I don't know.
He's always been a seagull.
Well,
there were moments where he tried to slightly be accountable.
As I said, I thought
moments.
2 times I thought I saw it.
Look, I don't doubt Rory's efforts. I don't particularly like the priority he places on certain actions at sometimes. And I think he needed to have a defensive aspect to his running, and from the TV, it didn't look like he was covering the ground defensively. Anyway, and I was a bit harsh, so I apologise to the Atkins community and
Peter.
broader Australia. Yeah. Hugh Greenwood, one of his quieter games, although he still had 10 tackles, if you don't mind. 14 and 7 for 21. 10 tackles that I mentioned. 6 inside 50s, 4 clearances.
He did have a lot of tackles he missed, though, which was really unusual. He was reaching a bit more. He couldn't get close enough.
Well,
Even Norman Jones.
I thought he tried his ass off, but he was overwhelmed by the numbers of classy players around him.
Yeah.
In
Good assessment, Macca. And I also reckon, Nicky, that might be an indicator of tiredness. To me, he looked tired. So he was just a step off making those tackles all the time. And
Mm.
we know he can nail those tackles nicely.
It's not a weakness of his.
I thought if anything, Cam was more a victim of that than him.
Yeah. I think Cam looked cooked, to be honest with you. I saw him jogging a lot of times when he should have been running. He didn't look right to me. He didn't look like he looked tired.
Yeah, he lacked zip.
Yeah, 9 and 5 for Cam for 14, only 1 mark, 5 tackles, 5 clearances, but 6 clangers, only 6 contested possessions, down from a game high 21 last week. Only went at 50% disposal efficiency, and 8 turnovers. It was a disappointing game for him, Cameron, but given the run of games that he's had, for a 25-year-old, 25-game player, we can't be too quick to burn these guys because they've carried a huge load over the last month and a half.
Oh,
yeah, that's
certainly not burning these guys, but they were worse than them.
Yep.
What did JJ have?
Not too bad, actually.
Ham sandwich. 12 kicks, 2 handballs, took 7 marks, 4 tackles, 3 hitouts, kicked 1-1.
See, I actually thought he tried. He was one of our forwards who was actually really trying.
Yeah, I agree. He was the focus of Melbourne's defence. I think they realised that we were going to kick it on Jenkins more often than not. We seemed to play JJ a bit deeper again this week, and he just had blokes hanging off him the whole game. And there were a couple of times where he made a contest that in the past you would have thought that he wouldn't have made. So I thought he competed pretty well.
Yep.
We have very few players, but I'd probably put him up in our best.
Yep.
Because of that.
Yep,
his effort, I was really pleased to see.
I agree. I also thought Tommy today battled hard, 6 and 15 for 21, 5 marks, 4 tackles.
They're very high up in our best, I thought.
Yeah, 9 contested possessions.
And he was going as strong at the end as he was at the beginning.
What is it with you guys tonight not letting me finish my bloody stats?
Because we want this over and done with really quick.
Every fucking time.
Apology.
Yeah, I want it done too. 9 intercepts. I thought he did really well. But, against a flood. Gibbsy was quiet again. Early season form is sort of tapering a bit. 11 and 8.
He did a couple of really nice things, but once again, it's that longer consistency. And I wonder what it would have been like if there wasn't Matt Crouch there once again.
Well, here's a thought. We all said we had to decarltonise Bryce Gibbs. Have we Adelaidefied Bryce Gibbs? Because he came across and he started with an absolute bang. And now he's dropped back to our second or third midfielder. Now, let's not forget, we paid a pretty penny for Bryce Gibbs.
Yep.
And with that should come some expectations. He should be, week in, week out, our best 1 or 2 midfielder. So let's not let him off the hook. He needs to do more, and I think over the last month, I mentioned a few weeks ago I thought he looked crook, but maybe he's just tapered off because he hasn't really come back. I mean, he had a good game last week in those wet conditions, but I don't know whether he's also struggling under the training load. I'm not sure, but we need more from Bryce, as we do from Richard Douglas. I thought Richard Douglas tried hard, but he just wasn't effective.
And he made the stupid bloody wrong decisions.
Well, he just wasn't effective. 11 and 7 is not enough output for effort, I think, from Dougie.
I thought he tried his ass off, but the issue And he did a couple of good things. That goal in particular was very, very good.
Yeah.
And also the set shot goal was very, very good.
Yeah.
But the same guy also did some real fuck ups as well.
Yeah.
So, I think this is what you get from Dougie.
Look,
We got the good, bad, and ugly from him in one game.
Let's not dress this up too much. Our midfield let Angus Brayshaw, who not only is a Brayshaw, which is one strike, but also is a rookie, basically, get 37 touches and 14 marks and kick 3 goals.
We were scared of the helmet.
No, not good enough. How does that lad get off the chain like that? 32 uncontested possessions.
You're totally right. Totally right.
Nearly 800 metres gained. He absolutely slaughtered us. Absolutely. The rest of their midfield were handball happy. Jack Viney, Clayton Oliver, Nathan Jones all went at least 1 kick to 2 handballs. Angus Brayshaw just killed us on the outside. Killed us.
What about Jack Viney? My God.
Yeah, well, Jack...
Hate him.
Nah, good player.
You can hate him. He's a bloody good footballer, though.
Anyway.
Yeah, he's a thug, though.
Back. No, he's just a hard player. Back to us. Dave McKay, another Dave McKay game. Tommy Lynch, as we've discussed already, to me didn't look
David
right.
McKay should get a special award, though, Phoenix.
Why?
For the comedy section of the game where that goal where he managed to fumble it to get it right down the line and then put it out of his reach lying on the ground so the guy could soccer it through for a goal.
That's what you get from your 200 game stars, Macca.
Well, I must admit that was just... I couldn't believe it. I know we've hit this bloke with whips so many times, but...
No, but I think we've been balanced with DMAC this year. I think we've given credit where it's due.
And that's probably a fair point because he has had some good games this year.
Yeah.
But really, I just thought he hit a low point again today with that particular one.
Yeah.
He did, but you noticed who the first player was to come and, pat him on the head so it's all right? It was Dodang.
Oh.
Yeah, he said, I'll do it next time for you.
Just sit down, D-Mac, we'll be right. Tails, I think, was my best anyway, and we'll get to those awards in a minute. 9 for 18, took 8 marks, but
good
just
effort.
was a bit of a rock in defence. 10 contested possessions, and
Tried
10
his arse
centres, and also 10 intercept possessions. I thought he did really well. Miller was patchy, in and out, didn't really do much. We've discussed JJ and Ellis Yeoman. I thought Kyle Hartigan was okay as well.
I did have to laugh at one stage when they said, he's... I think it was Bruce McAvan. He said, yeah, and Hartigan's not quick. Yeah, he is.
Yes, he is.
He is.
Yeah.
Just runs in the wrong direction sometimes. Jake Kelly is starting to worry me as well.
I thought he was injured. He did not look right. That was very un-Jake Kelly-like.
I'm with Nicky. He normally is somebody busts his ass, but today
he couldn't. He just couldn't.
I'm with you, Nicky. I think he's playing injured too.
Yeah. Miles Polke, I think they're playing him out of position. He looks a little bit lost where they're playing him in that sort of small half-forward role. I think he's a bona fide midfielder, and I think if they're going to play him, they should give him a run through there at least.
I agree.
I actually would have liked him to put Gallucci through the midfield because then we would have had some fucking pace.
Bit of speed. I think you're right there, Nick. Darcy Fogarty, I thought, tried hard for not much
return.
Took a
screamer.
Took 6 marks, and one of them was fantastic. We know what Darcy's going to be. Betts started brightly, but then just disappeared.
Opportunity, lack of. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But again, what happened to the tactic of running Eddie off the back of the square or giving him a run through the midfield, for God's sakes?
Well, they did that a little bit, but I think anytime he did, Jetta went with him. And then you've got another runner in there. There was a couple of times, especially in that last quarter, after that stare down by Pike, we actually came out firing. We couldn't get the goals on the board, but there was a much more intent going on, and Eddie was one of those. He was trying to put pressure on, and McAvaney actually said about it. When Campbell Brown said, Eddie's had a bad day. And he went, well, no, he's had a lack of opportunities, but every time he's had an opportunity, he's tried to make the most of it, and he's still done fairly well considering how starved he was of opportunity. So it's a catch-22 there with Eddie. Because if our midfield isn't doing it, getting it down there, what can he really do?
Well, that's right. But I think the coach could run him up the ground a little bit more often.
I think that did happen in the last quarter.
Oh, I was asleep then.
Yeah, you were.
I was. Jordan Gallucci, only the 7 kicks, didn't really have much of an influence on the game as well. Sammy Jacobs we talked about, and Lukey Brown got injured and was ineffective, and that's really all she wrote with regards to individual stats.
Just on that one stat that really supports what I said about Eddie, we only had 38 inside 50s to their 62. So the ball was really 2/3 of the time down the other end. About.
Yep. I think up until midway through the third quarter, I think it was 65-45% time in forward half. So not necessarily inside 50s, but time spent forward of centre.
I think if you were to summarise our game today, I think the only word you could really use would be pathetic. If for a team that prides itself on being a premiership contender, and given the fact we had some good players out, and I accept that, it certainly wasn't the effort of a team that is going to play in the finals at all. And the one thing that really stood out for me was that we're slow compared to other teams, and we certainly don't play. Our game plan doesn't work very well on great big ovals. And the other thing was a lack of leadership on the ground. I thought there was a total lack of leadership.
Yeah, I agree with that, Macca. I think leadership was lacking. I don't think we necessarily lack pace. I just don't think we're right as a squad. Blokes like Wayne Miller don't lack pace, but did we see him show much of that today? No. No surprise that he's, got hamstring tendonitis or knee tendonitis or whatever the other tendonitis. We've got blokes, I think, that aren't right, and the bye can't come soon enough for this squad, I don't think, and I don't even know whether the bye is going to be enough. But we're in deep trouble at this point, in my opinion.
Well, it's we got to play like that. It doesn't really matter, does it? We won't be playing in finals at all.
Well, the effort was definitely the issue, but I just wonder, given what we know and given what's been made public about our injury concerns, whether the effort was indicative of a squad that is running on fumes at the moment. And then you look at selection and you think, well, why the hell didn't we pick a bit of pace? We had Kirtley Hampton in the twos who played really well. We dropped Lockie Murphy. I don't actually understand why we dropped Lockie Murphy.
No, I don't understand that one at all.
Same, because he's got speed, which we needed on the big ground.
Speed and aggression, and we left Miles Paholke in. I would have far preferred to see Lockie in over Miles. No disrespect to Miles, but I think Lockie's been playing better, and I think Lockie is borderline best 22 for us at the moment, to be honest with you. We've got Paddy Wilson in the twos who's been playing well, can't get a sniff. My thoughts on Harry Deer are long and laborious. So, I mean, selection is odd when you consider we're bringing Matt Crouch back after a 1-week hamstring. We bring Luke Brown back early, in my opinion. We've got blokes that seem to be carrying stuff. We're pushing young lads to the limit with Greenwood and Ellis Yeoman, who've carried a huge load. It's baffling at the moment. It seems to be crisis management to me.
Well, certainly we're heading towards crisis. There's no doubt about that. And there's no doubt that the whole I can't use some of the expressions I used to use in the old days, but the real thing that's causing all the problems is the alleged different fitness program we've gone down, the hamstring strengthening thing or whatever it's called. I don't know what they call it, but whatever they've done, and they've done it differently, is caused basically us to be in this position that we're in now.
Yep, and it'll be interesting to see how we navigate the rest of the season, and if it goes the way it appears to be going, what they're going to do about it at post-season. Next week, of course, we've got GWS too, and they've been playing like crap. And the only thing that's probably in our favour in that one is that we're playing at the Oval. So,
and they're highly likely to still be playing like crap.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
where is that one being played at?
Adelaide Oval.
It is a home game for us, is it?
Home game Sunday Sunday twilight.
Yeah, with the last one, because with the Sunday twilight, because we played up there, and then the AFL wouldn't let us wear our Indigenous Guernsey because it was too close a clash. Because we were going to wear it today.
Right.
Yeah,
and then we'll be wearing it again next week. So that's why we played up there, was because it's one of our mandated games is that we have the Sir Doug Nicholls game at home.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, we'll round out this by going through our awards. Difficult this week, but we may as well do them because it wasn't 22 playing badly. So let's start off with the Jet of the Week.
You're gonna get what you need. Gonna get what you need. You're gonna get what you need. Gonna get what you need. You're gonna get what you need.
For me, it was Talia.
Yeah, Talia with honourable mentions, I think, to JJ and Duday.
Yeah, you did well, Nicky.
You happy with that, Macca?
Yep, happy with that.
It's the quickest bloody round of awards ever. The Breakout Award, who did we have eligible this week? We had Greenwood, Diday, Ellis Yeoman. Miller doesn't count, does he? Does he count still? I can't remember. Paholke, Fogarty, Galucci.
Yeah, I think he does count.
I think he does,
but for me, whilst Vardy Magic said Miller had tried, I think it's got to be the dude.
Dodo easily.
Duday or Fogarty for mine. I actually thought Fogarty, despite not having huge output, I felt like he did. Like when you talk about opportunities for bets, I think Fogarty suffered from a similar fate. And I think when the ball was in his vicinity, I think he worked really, really hard. But I probably will tip it over to Duday. And
you're right, because even when they put and they've done it a couple of times, when they put Fogarty down back, he reads the play so beautifully.
Yep. So
I think that Dodo anyhow.
Dodo, you reckon? All right. So that's so far we've got Dodo for the Breakout and Tales for the Jet of the Week. Let's see who we want to wake up this week. Sorry, Nikki, I have to play that song because you and I share a love of the living end.
We do indeed.
We do. And
I was quietly headbanging.
For mine, Sauce Jacobs is my vote for Wake Up this week.
It's hard to argue with you.
Oh, I'm going to, because for me it's Matt Crouch.
No.
The guy had 34 touches. Jesus, Nick.
I don't give a shit how many touches he gets if he's not interested in actually, when they are running free, not even attempting to chase. Or if he does, it's like, oh, I can't catch him.
Well,
Can
maybe
you
that's
take him?
that's because it came back 3 weeks early from a hamstring.
Nicky, Gawn had 12 possessions. Jacobs had 6.
I don't care.
Oh my
I don't
God.
care.
How can you argue with this woman? How can you?
Nick, you must accept that Crouch would have been very tender coming back off a 1 week hamstring.
I think he decided he didn't have a hamstring.
No, but he was out last week for some reason. So whether it's a hamstring or tendonitis, he's clearly not.
If you're picked, you need to play, and he was doing basic defensive stuff wrong, and that's my bugbear. That's my bugbear.
Nikki, the guy might have got picked, but that doesn't mean he's got the capacity to run.
And the other half of what I was trying to say is, and Gawn had 49 hit-outs to 21.
Yeah. And have a look at the effective hit-outs. I think Gawn had more effective hit-outs than Sauce had hit-outs in total.
Yeah. Nicky, you're wrong.
Yeah, you're wrong, Nick. Thanks for playing, though. And you can make up for it by giving us a decent bloody cock womble this week.
Oh, I've got a doozy.
Underground, overground, wombling free.
Go for it. Redeem yourself.
No, because it's my award, and normally the award is for somebody who's done something stupid but often makes us laugh in the AFL. I'm going outside the AFL and giving it to the NFL for their piece of stupidity they did this week.
NFL?
Yep.
What did they do?
Well, they decided that when they play the national anthem, if players don't want to stand for that, they can go and hide in the locker room, or if they want to kneel as a protest for something else. No, they're not protesting the anthem, but protesting something else, which is what players have been doing, then they will fine them.
You know what, Nicky? I don't give a shit about the NFL.
Well, nobody should anymore after they did that.
We're in the middle of an AFL season, and we're governed by a body who's prone to make some ridiculous decisions. And the one that I want to give,
The one that I want to give
is the bloody MRP for not citing Mason Cox.
For what?
They didn't cite Mason Cox for that head-high Richie Douglas bump on Friday night. It was exactly the same.
Yeah, it was.
Exactly the same, and they didn't even cite him. It was ridiculous.
Well, I think it's a bit more relevant than Nicky.
Yeah, I think we can agree that Nicky's taken some sort of hallucinogenic drug.
I said I was going to start with the AFL as a nomination, the NFL as a nomination, but partly why that is that we have Gil McLaughlin, who in every off-season always travels over to spend time with Roger Goodrill and the NFL and talks up how wonderful the NFL is an organisation, and that's what we're trying to be like. And they are one of the worst fucking organisations out there.
Yeah, not relevant to football. Not relevant. Nicky, you're just about getting a bloody nomination this week.
She's close,
I mean,
yeah, but I still give it out at the end. You can nominate me as much as you like. I'm not going to give it to myself.
Yeah, but I can mute you. Last week we gave you credit where it was due. It was one of your better performances. But if you can't back it up,
I'm having a Matt Crouch.
No, you're having a Sauce Jacobs.
But I do think you are spot on with the MRP. I mean, how many times have we nominated them this year? Supposedly it was fixed with just Michael Christensen coming in, but he's not being consistent.
No,
he's
not
as inconsistent he was last year. It's ridiculous.
How can you not cite him? How can you not at least fine the guy?
He had to be cited. I mean, it wasn't intentional. Really, we do know he is a bit clumsy, and he was trying to move, but he should have been cited for that. I know. Spot on.
It's no different to Nick Naitanui. If you're going to report and suspend Nick Naitanui because of a differential in body size that Nick Nat didn't take into account in the 3 nanoseconds he had to make a decision to tackle, then you can't turn around and excuse Mason Cox for being clumsy. Like, it just drives me freaking insane.
100% right.
Anyway.
You are absolutely spot on.
I also like the one that PJ put up too, with Rucci. The outer in Shanghai was empty because the concrete isn't reinforced yet. And it was just another Rucci attempt to cover up for Port Adelaide, which incidentally, I saw in today's paper, they've been exposed because, what's the name?
Caroline Wilson.
Caroline Wilson was, yes. I was trying to think who did it. It was Caroline Wilson. Kept claiming that they made a loss on those 2 games, and apparently they have.
Yeah. There's no doubt in my mind that they are pumping up those numbers. There's no way in the world that they were hiding thousands of people in hospitality tents. No way. But anyway, who gives a shit? That's Port Adelaide. Nicky, who's going to get it?
Oh, it's got to be the MRP.
MRP. I'm happy with your outcome. You've saved it.
She saved the day.
Hey, that's what this is a democracy until I give out the award.
What's happening with Rucci anyway, by the way, speaking of Cockwombles? Is he football editor at large? What is he? Left,
Well, the
right,
rumour
out?
is he's been removed.
He's no longer the chief football writer. He
did-
calls himself sporting editor at large, which means he's in charge of nothing.
Yeah, but there was a tagline on one of his articles last week where it was chief football writer, or I don't know. It was back to his old. I don't know.
No, I heard him say on the radio because they asked him about it.
Oh, really?
Yes. He is no longer the chief football writer because they introduced him as a chief football writer. He said, "No, I'm no longer have that title."
So, did they explore as to why that was the case? Was it a demotion?
It is a demotion.
Did he say that? Did he?
He didn't quite say that, but he sort of put it in terms that made it clear that's what it was. And it apparently, which he again only sort of touched lightly on, was the fact that it is because of his relationship with the Crows, the fact that they won't speak to him.
That's fantastic. Fantastic.
So they've outlasted him.
Yeah, very good.
I suggest that's what he thinks in his mind, when more likely what it is that there's been huge drop-offs in subscribers, etc., and there has been.
So do you think it might have more to do with the fact that the statute of limitations has dropped off on that incident that happened all those years ago with someone called Piers Ackerman? That probably...
I have.
Probably,
that was the rumour as to why he was so
Be
protected.
careful, be careful, be careful.
I said it was the rumour.
Be careful.
The rumour.
Because I know that there are ears on this program. I know that. So let's be very careful.
Oh, yeah.
Michelangelo, we're not suggesting anything other
No.
than the fact that your
We're just saying
relationship
that
with
that's-
Piers Ackerman was tumultuous and certain outcomes may have...
Apparently. It was apparently tumultuous.
Yeah. All right.
Well,
you know what I
that's
think
long been the
Rucci
rumour.
had? I think Rucci had Piers Ackerman awareness. And on that note, I think we should tidy this up.
No, I'm not going near it.
No, very good. Thanks everyone on the chat for listening again. You can catch us on Facebook, Twitter, AFL CrowCast, our website, aflcrowcast.com. Tuesday night live on Tuesday with Pete and the crew. Look forward to your company then. Until then, thanks for listening and goodbye.
Night all, and Sunday night's probably going to be later next week.
Yeah,
Oh, yes,
good night
goodbye.
all.